Thank you, Bruce, for that introduction. And I don't think I'll buy a tractor today, but I'm very happy to be with people that are concerned with agriculture and the policies connected with it. They gave me 10 minutes. I'm going to cover a couple issues. If there's more time, I would maybe mention a little bit about tax reform, but I want to cover trade and cover the Farm Bill. Thank you very much for this invitation to the Ag Summit. This event brings leaders together to discuss important issues in agriculture. There are so many experts here that I'm not sure how much I can add, but I want to give you a political perspective that maybe you won't get from other people. And I'm kind of embarrassed to talk about policy because so far this year we've had a very poor track record, except maybe rescinding a lot of bad Obama regulations that we've been successful at through a process called resolution of disapproval, and maybe getting a Supreme Court nominee. But beyond that, I'm not very proud to talk about the record of this Congress. There are several major items in Washington, and I told you two that I'm going to talk about. I will focus my comments on those. In about 2 weeks, the Trump administration will officially begin NAFTA renegotiations with Canada and Mexico. The U.S. Trade Representative announced that the first round of NAFTA renegotiations will take place in Washington from August 16th to August 20th. I conveyed in very strong terms how much the agricultural industry has benefited from NAFTA. I think most of you know that. And I conveyed this very early to the Trump administration through people like Secretary of Commerce Roth, to the President's trade advisor, Mr. Navarro, and through the Special Trade Representative, Lighthizer. I know many of you, along with the commodity organizations, have done this very same thing, and from the grassroots of America, that's a very important process to make sure that you do that and keep it up. To offer everyone proof of the progress that we've made, when Senator Lighthizer came to my office for the first time as a nominee, I asked him point blank if agriculture interests should be worried about what this administration might do on trade. The answer I got at that time was not very comforting. But you fast forward a few weeks when Mr. Lighthizer was before our Senate Finance Committee for his confirmation hearing. He publicly stated that the administration would utilize a quote-unquote do no harm policy for agriculture in trade negotiations. Now, while this was not a guarantee, it's certainly an improvement from where I started back in February. Another good signal, though, the Trump administration has opened up China for U.S. beef. That's a very good thing, of course, for our beef industry. I see it a promising sign from the priorities of the administration. When you have doubt about what those priorities are, and you see something like after a decade of getting beef into China, that seemed to be a good signal. Regarding NAFTA and ag specifically, my sense is we will have more of a challenge with Canada than with Mexico. And I state that from a meeting I had in my office with Mexico's Minister of the Economy. He told me at that particular time, now maybe this is back 10 weeks or so, that Mexico was fine with leaving all the current agriculture provisions alone in these renegotiations. I told him that sounded very good to me, of course, because I was very scared otherwise. We will have to see how these negotiations proceed. There are some areas that need update, and it was kind of surprising to me to learn from both Canada when I visited with a prime minister of one of their provinces, as well as the Mexican minister, that they actually took a view that after 25 years that there probably was some update that's needed in NAFTA. So two of those would be the area of intellectual property protection. There will be some negotiations in that area and some dispute settlement changes that need to be made. There are some areas like Canadian dairy policy that are going to be quite a challenge if we try to make changes in that area, but I think it's legitimate that we try to do that. Regarding the Farm Bill, Chairman Roberts of the committee has held a series of hearings in preparation for the writing of the new bill. During the last week of July, we held a hearing on commodity programs and crop insurance. The biggest challenge for this Farm Bill will be the budget, which may sound familiar, and what I'm shouldn't be surprised to anyone here when you have the deficit problems that we have. Now, there are 37 programs from the 22 Farm Bill that have no budget baseline, which means that when we adopt a budget, there won't be money already in that budget for them. So there are three options to deal with those 37 programs. You can, number one, let them expire. Number two, you can take money from existing Farm Bill programs and redirect it to the expiring programs. Or number three, you can fund them with deficit spending. Beyond the 37 programs, there are several large new requests for money that come in, which, while well-intentioned, do not help us when we have to work within the budget constraints that we're going to have. Specifically related to commodities and the ARC program, there could be some modifications. The one that I hear most about is switching from survey based on NASS data for county yields to move to the insurance data that's collected. There's a sense that the RMA data is more accurate because the survey-based data can be held kind of sporadic as a result of those people that tend to fill out the survey might not be an accurate composite of all the information you need. I will outline, or I'm going to continue, I want everybody to know, to advocate for enforceable payment limits per farming operation. I want to stress an important point. Everyone who really farms, in other words, if you're a farmer, you have nothing to worry about with payment limitations. Those who get subsidies but do not farm should admit it, that it's ridiculous with our $20 trillion debt, and if they realize if you don't farm that you aren't entitled to a payment limitation, or you're not entitled to payments, and hence the limitation. The reality of large farmers using loopholes to get unlimited amount of subsidy is that they bid up land prices and cash rents that create a huge economic barrier for the next generation. I believe in and support farm safety nets, and I also believe that it needs to be limited and not overly distortive. I think the crop insurance program, in the end, will look pretty similar to what it looks like today. There will undoubtedly be some critics who offer amendments on the Senate floor to cut crop insurance. I don't think we're going to have any problem within the Senate Agriculture Committee on this issue, but I doubt that changes suggested on the floor of the Senate will get adopted. It may not be quite that easy in the House of Representatives. But I believe in the end, what Chairman Roberts said at a committee meeting 2 weeks ago, quote unquote, no cuts in crop insurance, period. Beyond that, there will likely be continued effort of outside groups to push a range of issues that complicate things with crop insurance. As an example, the last Farm Bill required conservation compliance for crop insurance for the first time. We will have to wait and see if they put any major requests forward this year. None yet, but there may be areas of agreement that we can work on. Occasionally, I hear from farmers in Iowa who are experimenting with cover crops that want to run into problems, that do run into problems with crop insurance. I've not heard anyone say the opposite, that they oppose cover crops, so perhaps that's an area that we can find some mutual agreement. The Farm Bill is a preeminent piece of legislation for rural America. It directly impacts decision-making and investment for 318 million acres of cropland across the country. I know of no other piece of legislation that impacts such a large area of our country on a yearly basis. Additionally, the Farm Bill provides 40 million people receiving benefits under the food stamp program. But most importantly, the Farm Bill helps ensure a safe and affordable food supply for 7.5 million people across the world. This Farm Bill, like the last two Farm Bills, will be a challenging marathon with its ups and downs. I believe that we will get a new Farm Bill passed before Christmas. I look forward to continuing to hear from Iowans about their priorities for the new Farm Bill. And if you want to know about the timing of the Farm Bill, I would suggest that you go and ask Chairman Roberts, but I have reason to believe that it's going to move along quickly after we get back after Labor Day. I was going to talk about tax cuts, but time's up, so just let me say this. One of the goals that I have for passing on farming from one generation to the other and recognizing that in farming you put a lot of your capital back in so you can be an efficient operator, and when you have to sell a farm to settle the estate tax and you don't have an efficient farming operation left with whatever you have left after you pay your estate taxes, one of the goals that we have is to get rid of the estate tax. Thank you all very much.